What's up, sons? It's Blind Rod with Son of a Tech once again, and welcome to yet another episode of the Crypto ABCs. This is the series where we cover cryptocurrency terminology in alphabetical order. So if you've missed A or B, you can go back and check those out by checking out the link for the playlist down in the description. Today we're going to be covering the letter C, and if you guys know of anybody that may find this helpful that's new to the cryptocurrency scene, please be sure to share it out and let them know about this particular series. It isn't for, of course, the well-initiated that have been around the channel for a long time. This is for people that are new to cryptocurrency. So I understand if you want to move on and check out a different video, feel free. But if you are here for the C's, we'll get into it right after a word from our sponsor. Today's sponsor is myself. To support the channel, click the join button below the video and you will get access to our privately hosted Rocket Chat. Selecting the $1.99 option will get you access, and after that you need to head over to the membership tab, scroll down, and expand out your membership perks. Find the section for connecting on social media, and in that section there will be a secret registration URL to join Rocket Chat, where you can sign up to enjoy talking with other cryptocurrency enthusiasts and miners without spammers, scammers, or bots. Welcome back. CAP is shorthand for market capitalization. We will be defining market capitalization later on in the series, so stay tuned. Central ledger, this is an important one, is when a single entity has control of all financial records. It is considered to be a central ledger. This is how banks operate. This is how banks operate, completely opposed, of course, to how cryptocurrency operates, which is where everybody can have a copy of the ledger and they validate against each other via a process known as consensus, which we will be talking about in today's video. This is very important because it basically prevents, a single party, like a bank, from manipulating things behind the scenes. And it puts the power of the financial market back into the hands of the people and removes it, of course, from the banking system. That is the idea, at least. Chain linking is going to be an important one as well. Each cryptocurrency has its own blockchain, the digital ledger that stores all transaction records. Chain linking is the process that occurs if you transfer one cryptocurrency to another. This requires the transaction to be lodged in two separate blockchains, so they must link together to achieve the goal. There are various projects working on getting this done. For example, Chainlink, with its very obvious name of what it does, and we can cover those, of course, in separate videos, maybe in a WTF is Chainlink. Let me know if you would find that interesting down in the comment section below. Cipher is the name given to the algorithm that encrypts and decrypts information. Circulating supply is the total number of coins in a cryptocurrency that are in the publicly tradable space is considered the circulating supply. Some coins can be locked, reserved, or burned, therefore unavailable to public trading. This is something you want to be paying attention to when you are looking at different projects, especially if you're looking at just buying or trading them. This channel, we don't really necessarily cover trading cryptocurrency. We talk about mining it because we are about revenue, not about buying and holding. That being said, it's super important to understand the difference between circulating supply and total supply. For example, in Ethereum, when you have something like your circulating supply, that's what the people are able to trade, etc. But your total supply is going to be significantly higher as they have some locked up in dev wallets, etc. Another thing that will be changing, of course, the circulating supply for Ethereum in particular will be EIP 1559, which will be burning a portion of the transaction fees and possibly make the currency deflationary, but not immediately, because you got to remember we still have the beacon chain. Anyways, I went way off tangent. Hope you enjoyed that one. Next, we have cold storage. This is another term used for a paper wallet. Cold storage basically implies that it has never touched the internet, period, end of story. So if you hear somebody say it's in cold storage, it typically means that it's been written down on a piece of paper or etched into a metal plate or something along those lines and put into a safe. There's nothing special going on here except that it has never in theory, touched the internet. Hot, which we'll define in the H, as opposed to this, would be, of course, something that has touched the internet. There is like this whole new terminology of warm, but in my opinion, it's still just hot because it's touched the internet in some form or fashion. Warm is just a fancy way of people that haven't secured their cryptocurrency as well as they would have liked to announce to the public that they are doing something, better with it than just a hot wallet. So just be careful. The terms get a little sketchy. Anyways, confirmed. When a transaction has been confirmed, it means that it has been approved by the network and permanently appended to the blockchain. Consensus is when a transaction is made. All nodes on the network verify that it is a valid transaction on the blockchain, and if so, they have a consensus. Consensus process refers to those nodes that are responsible for maintaining the blockchain ledger so that a consensus can be reached when a transaction is made. Now, consensus mechanism is a fault-tolerant mechanism that is used in a computer blockchain system to achieve the necessary agreement on a single data value or a single state of the network among distributed processes or multi-agent systems, such as with cryptocurrencies. It is useful in record keeping, among other things. So I want to talk about that because all of these can get a little confusing. Essentially, what you want to understand is that consensus means that across all of those central ledgers, or the ledgers, not centralized anymore, right? But across all of decentralized ledgers, they have to come to a consensus to basically agree upon the transactions that have happened on the network. So when we're talking about consensus and the process and the mechanism, it can get a little bit confusing. One of the things that I wanted to point out too is consensus mechanism would refer to typically mining and proof of work or staking and proof of stake, and the method in which the consensus is come to, right? So there are different algorithms within that we've talked about in the A's, and that's all part of the consensus process. And so you just need to understand that what that means is all of the ledgers are basically using using different mechanisms and processes to come to a consensus of what, has happened on the blockchain. Next, we have Consortium Blockchain, a privately owned and operated yet publicly transparent blockchain. And then we will, of course, define cryptocurrency, which is a form of money that exists as encrypted digital information, operating independently of any banks. A cryptocurrency has sophisticated mathematics to regulate the creation and transfer of funds between entities. It's interesting that we still have on Finder.com the stipulation of cryptocurrencies being independent from banks. Because unfortunately, as we get closer and closer and closer to cryptocurrency becoming adopted on the masses, we are seeing more and more cryptocurrencies losing that definition and integrating with banks, and also just heads of state completely creating their own cryptocurrency, such as China. We also have the integration of the Israeli crypto, the digital shekel, on top of the Ethereum blockchain. So there's a lot of traditional finance and integration with banks happening within cryptocurrency, to where I fear that this full definition, excuse me for bumping it, but I fear that this full definition is going to change before my kids are old enough to actually read this in a textbook. But don't forget that it was supposed to operate completely independently from banks. Don't forget that. And especially since new people presumably would be watching this series, cryptocurrency is supposed to, in theory, be independent from the banking system. Okay? Cryptographic hash function. This process happens on a node and involves converting an input, such as a transaction, into a fixed encrypted alphanumeric string that registers its place in the blockchain. This conversion is controlled by a hashing algorithm, which is different for each cryptocurrency. And then we have cryptography, which is the process of encrypting and decrypting information. For a lot of the C's, you may want to check out something called the Cypherpunk Manifesto. I'll try to leave a link to it down in the description below, but it will go over kind of what I would consider to be the first discussions of cryptocurrency in general, or at least the philosophies behind it. Now, what it really covered when we're talking about the Cypherpunk Manifesto was going to be privacy of information. And the idea was that you would be able to essentially keep conversations private and encrypted between people. And that meant email, etc. A lot of these networks were shut down. The last one that was in place for presumably ISIS. So that doesn't look good, of course. But we need to keep in mind that just because we want the right to privacy doesn't mean that we are doing anything wrong, right? So don't give it all up. However, of course, as we've seen, because history has already been written, we've given up privacy at this point. At least communication privacy, all that. That's gone pretty much. But it was the building foundations, all of the cryptography, etc., and the ciphers were kind of that beginning steps to what has created and come into fruition with cryptocurrency. So they are tied together very closely. So understanding the kind of the, I guess, philosophies of the people that basically created this may be something that could be advantageous to, a few of you if you're interested. It's also just a fun topic, especially if you're into any sort of, cyberpunk stuff, that you might enjoy it. Okay, so finally, the big bonus is going to be see you next Tuesday. As opposed to the first letter being S, as most people seem to presume it is actually C. And there is no double E after that. And then it is U. So it's spelled C-U with a space between it. And then space, next, and then space, Tuesday. There'll still be about 100 of y'all that don't get it and ask me in the comment section below. I'll see you next Tuesday. If you enjoyed this content, you can watch more by clicking this playlist up here or go ahead and subscribe.